You probably already know this, but Elden Ring is a really hard game, even amongst other Soulsborne games. Maybe not Sekiro, Sekiro is very hard too. But the point being, when I was trying to think of a challenge run for Elden Ring, it took a while. But I am a huge MMA fan, have been for years. I was like, why don't I try and make like an MMA fighter and see if I can beat the game like that? And so here's the rules I came up with for this run. Rule number 1, I can only use the 2 types of Caestus, I think that's how you pronounce it. The 2 types being the regular Caestus and the spiked Caestus. The reason for this is they're basically like MMA gloves, right? Bits of leather, quite small. One thing I'm definitely not going to try and do is just a bare-fisted run, because that would be literally almost impossible. But this will still definitely be a challenge just using the Caestuses, because they're not very good. The scaling sucks, the reach is awful, they're just not great weapons. And it will be even harder still, because rule number 2 is I can't wear any armor whatsoever, because I'm an MMA fighter, you can't go in wearing armor. I will be able to use talismans though, because they won't buff me too much and I'll still be really squishy. And rule number 3, no ranged attacks at all. That means no throwing knives or any ranged consumables like that, and also no ranged Ashes of War. I'm going to only allow myself to use Ashes of War as like a feat of strength or something within my own body, like the kick or something that buffs my defense for a while, something like that. And lastly, no summoning of any kind, because when you enter that cage, it's just you and your opponent, no one's going to help you. And that's the rules. Time to make my fighter. Okay, so I went with the Wretch because obviously they don't start with armor, so it's perfect. I can just throw the club away. And then I picked the Crimson Amber Medallion for the extra health boost. And with that said, it's time to look at the character I made. And that is the face of a fighter. He is perfect. Right, so I was just messing around giving him a goofy face. And then when I gave him that hair and facial hair combination, I realised I just accidentally made Habib Nurmagomedov if he was an Oblivion character. But regardless of that, I still went with the character name I had in mind in the very beginning. Now that is a fighter's name. And so let's get this show on the road, shall we? Of course, since I don't have my weapons yet, I skipped the tutorial. I need to get a few other things too, but mainly my biggest worry right now is getting a weapon. But where will I get them from? Where are they on the map? I am here on this star on the map. The regular Caestus are here. They're sold by Gatekeeper Gostock in Stormvale Castle. Not too far away, right? Except, to get to him, I'd have to beat the first boss, Margit, and that is not going to happen without some gloves. And so that just leaves me with the option of the spiked Caestus, and luckily, they aren't locked behind a boss. However, they are miles away. As you can see on the map, they are in Dragon Barrow, sold by a merchant, so I've got quite the trek ahead of me. And this brings us to Chapter 1, The Perilous Trek. Okay, this is just to show you just how bad fighting unarmed is. This is one of the weaker enemies in the game. And so as you saw, fighting unarmed just isn't a viable option at all. It does 1 or 2 damage per hit and that's it, it doesn't get better than that. So fighting just the first boss would take literally hours. Don't get me wrong, I am a glutton for punishment. I mean, I've watched every episode of Rings of Power for God's sake, but I'm not that big of an idiot. But anyway, moving on. So on my way to the next big campsite, I ran past everybody that I saw, went down these stairs and got myself the whetstone knife, which will come very much in handy when I want to swap out whatever Ash of War I have, because the kick is pretty bad. And then it wasn't far until I reached the next checkpoint, in which I get approached by a random stranger, who, long story short, ends up becoming my manager. Now, every fighter worth their salt needs a manager to take care of the business side or the admin. A great manager can make or break your career. For example, I tell her about this long journey ahead of me, and what's the first thing she does? Bang, gives me a horse. Great manager. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that the spiked Caestus cost 4,000 runes. So I had to scavenge as many things as I possibly could on the way, because Lord knows I can't fight stuff to get some runes. And then, as luck would have it, I found a solution to my expensive glove problem. A whole graveyard full of free runes. I don't know what they're doing here, maybe they're like an offering to the dead, but they would have wanted me to buy the gloves, right? It's better off with me. And then I found a place that has both a sacred tear and the flask of wondrous physic. And while we're in the realm of doing like an MMA roleplay thing, let's just call the healing flasks Red Gatorade and the flask of wondrous physic a protein shake, because why not? Alright, I'm going to keep the rest of this journey nice and short and snappy so we can get to the boss fights as soon as possible. So here's the highlights of what happened. I punched a big pot man and made a friend and training partner for life. I got murdered in a church. I stumbled onto the set of a zombie movie. I got murdered by a big crow, the irony wasn't lost on me. I thankfully found a shortcut into the dragon barrows. I finally made it to the merchant, sold everything I had, and bought the spiked Castus. There we go. Now that I've finally got these gloves, it's time for Chapter 2, the rest of the video. I could only afford one chapter card, don't judge me. This is also the last chapter. But anyway, time to find some training partners, do some sparring, and test out these gloves. Well, I say that, you see what happened was, my manager called me up and was like, look, I managed to get you into this place, it's got all these other cool fighters, you can buy some cool stuff, upgrade your gloves. As I said, great manager. But now it's time for my first sparring session. And I don't want to be rude, but this guy was kind of a pushover. I mean, he was even using a sword for God's sake, I mean, what the hell. But I let it slide, you know, I was like, well, he invited me all the way out here to his cave, I may as well humour the guy. By the way, I'm only going to show you snippets of mini boss fights, because I don't want this video to be super long. All you need to know is, I gave him the business. This is what I'm going to do with my stats, by the way. I'm going to pour everything I have into Vigour, Endurance and Strength. The gloves don't scale particularly well with Strength or Dex, so I thought I may as well just go Strength. Alright, at this point, I'll be honest, I got a bit cocky and I went into my first boss fight, aka my first professional fight, and it didn't go too well. But I knew I could beat him with more training. But regardless, I did still lose, and that gives me a professional record of 0 wins and 1 loss. Time for a little training montage of all the sparring I did in preparation for my rematch with Margit. This first guy was one of those typical sparring partners you get, where they talk a big game but as soon as you land a few clean hits they give up immediately. And then there was this guy who had clearly heard about my dangerous striking before because he's wearing a big old helmet, so I just punched him in the body a bunch. Then I went back to the tutorial and fought this guy, who I'm sure the community has no strong opinion of and doesn't always make the same jokes about. But regardless, the guy got dunked on, and then I may have rubbed it in his face a little bit before I finished him off. And then finally there's this guy, who will be my last sparring session before my big rematch. I'm pretty sure this guy is the brother of the first guy I sparred with, who's also using a sword again, but whatever, the only weapons that Chuck Knuckles needs are the ones at the end of his arms. But here we go, time to avenge my only loss. Something I will say straight away is that the spiked Castus are a lot better than I thought they would be. I mean, the attack speed's slower than I thought it would be, the range is as bad as I thought it would be, but because it's got bleed build up, it's actually pretty good. Don't get me wrong though, this does still feel like a challenge run, and this game definitely gets exponentially harder the later it goes. And against my better judgment, I am actually going to try and beat Melania, just because, you know, if it's a challenge run, it feels like you have to, right? But anyway, back to the fight at hand. Right, something I haven't said before, but I don't know who's doing the matchmaking here, because this guy is clearly like 10 weight classes above me. And he's using a weapon as well, for God's sake. I swear, no one fights with honour nowadays, man. And I don't care if that's his cane he's using as a weapon. That whole Gandalf thing where he's like, oh, you wouldn't part an old man from his walking stick. That shit ain't gonna fly with me. But regardless, I outclassed him. And if you hadn't noticed, I have a new special move where I do my running jump, double overhand smash. And he just wasn't ready for it. He wasn't expecting Chuck Knuckles to go train like a madman, come up with some new moves, leap in the air like a salmon and hit him on top of the head. I avenged my loss and got my first professional win. Here's a quick checkup on my stats, by the way. Now that Margit's been dealt with, I have the rest of Stormvale Castle to explore. However, since getting this far has already taken up 10 minutes of this video, it's time to speed things up. I'll still keep you updated with my stats and my build and things like that, but come on, you guys are here for the violence and the action. You know it, I know it. So let's just get to the next boss, shall we? So here we go, my second ever professional fight. And I do use fire grease here. I think that's fair because it's not magic. I mean, my guy just douses his hands in lighter fluid and just sets them alight because he's built different. However, it didn't really help. I mean, this guy's out here knocking up hurricanes with his axe and I'm just some guy who punches things. Okay. Doesn't seem fair, but anyway, that's another loss for your boy. Now I'm going to keep doing this professional record thing because I think it's a cool way to track how many times I actually die to these main bosses. I mean, my record at the end of this is going to be abysmal, but they can beat me as many times as they please. All I have to do is win once. But it wasn't this time. If I'm going to get this win, I'm going to have to make a few changes. Namely, this Ash of War I've got, Endure, it is basically useless. At least it is for my playstyle. It just makes you a little bit tankier for 3 seconds. And maybe I just use it wrong, maybe I just suck at the game. Both incredibly likely. But I feel like I'd rather just dodge an attack rather than just try and tank through it. And then I remembered there's a guy out here that just sells Ashes of War. So I picked up all the ones that weren't magic in any way. Namely, I got Warcry, Kick, and most importantly, I got Quick Step. Now that's my kind of jam. The more ways to dodge, duck, dip, dive and dodge, the better if you ask me. So now that I've got that equipped and I just leveled up a few times, it's time to give Godric a taste of this God dick. God damn it. Okay, but for real this time though. I can't let this spoilt rich guy just keep going on thinking he can just buy his way to victory every time. Like, good for you, you can just buy some new axes and some more arms for yourself. Would I like more arms? Yes, I want to look like Machamp. But Chuck Knuckles is a man of humble origins. Everything he has, he had to work for. So this fight is bigger than me just getting a win. This is the humble, hard-working lower class versus the snobby, arrogant upper class. Chuck Knuckles doesn't fight for himself, he fights for all of us. So here we go. Oh, that really, that hit me, did it? Oh!
I am the Lord of all that is golden.
You may be the Lord of all things, but Chuck Knuckles is the Lord of the Rings. That's one more in the win column. And another 2 losses that I didn't show you, but you know, whatever, I got the win. Now that that's over with, I can finally buy the regular Castus from Gravekeeper Gostock. I mean, technically I think I could have got them earlier by killing him, but Chucky Nux doesn't play that way. He's a man of honour. But now that I've got these bad boys, I could make this challenge run even more challenging. Because as I've said before, the spiked Castus are actually surprisingly competent, and that's mainly just because of the bleed build up. And while a part of me thinks it's more fun just to make people bleed to death, the reason I am doing this is for it to be a challenge. So in the future I will not use a spiked Castus unless I'm like super stuck on a boss. Spoiler alert though, I didn't do this until after Rey Lucaria because that's when I came up with the idea. Speaking of which, I've got a new fight booked and it's in, you guessed it, Rey Lucaria. But when I got there the gates were locked, so I had to go find the key. Real quick though, before I go do that, I upgrade the amount of red Gatorades I can use, and then I upgrade my spiked Castus. I gave it the heavy affinity so that it scales with strength better now, and I got it to +6. Okay, so this key should be around here somewhere. Maybe it's here behind this weird statue of a dragon. Kind of weird place. Wait, did that thing just move? Oh shit, it's not a statue. Okay, moving right along, nothing to see there. So anyway, I made it into Rey Lucaria, and I'm not a huge fan of Rey Lucaria, I'm not gonna lie to you. It looks great, don't get me wrong, but the enemies with their spells is a constant barrage, it's the worst. And if there's one thing that Chuck Knuckles doesn't like more than people who use weapons in a fight, it's people who use magic. I just want to be done with this whole place as quickly as possible. And as I got further into this place, they set the dogs on me because I wasn't a magic user. And my only means of escape was jumping onto this very hazardous elevator with no handrails. I mean, this is a lawsuit just waiting to happen. I might just pretend I fell off and hurt myself and just take him to court, because fuck it, fuck this place. But anyway, after going through the gauntlet of what feels like a million mages, I had a surprise fight on my hands. Okay, I didn't expect a fight, but wait a minute, they want me to fight a dog? What's wrong with these people? So they have no regard for safety standards, and now they're doing fights with animals, really? What do they think this is, a Roman Colosseum? Oh, and it's a magic using dog, of course it is. Okay, let's just try and do this as quick and humanely as possible. Well, as humane as you can be while making something bleed to death with your spiky hands. Okay, Clifford, let's do this. Oh, so even the dog is using a sword, a magic sword. Okay, now I don't feel guilty about fighting this thing. Time to be put down. You can call these hands chocolate covered grapes because they are deadly to dogs. I'll count that as another win, I think I deserve that. And I'll be real with you, it took me 4 tries to beat it. Yeah, that dog was kinda hard, I'm not gonna lie. Anything that moves around a lot is really hard to hit when you've got no range. But anyway, that's the end of Sif, the Great Red Wolf. Here's a quick update on my stats. Now time to push on ahead. I guess this is the only way to go. Kind of precarious, but I guess that's the theme of this place. At least there's arm rails here. Maybe they've learnt their lesson. Maybe, you know, that was what was that noise? Oh my god, really? Okay. Now these guys are just begging to get sued, aren't they? For real, am I in a Japanese game show? What is happening here? Do I at least get a prize at the end of all this? If not, then I'm taking these guys for all they're worth. So if anybody out there wants to come visit Raya Lucaria, you better do it soon before I shut this place down. And after I made it past that death trap, I have to fight this guy. Now this guy I feel like is the equivalent of that woman hanging around in Bergenworth in Bloodborne that can just one-shot you. Every time I've played this game and got to this point, this guy destroys me. But you know what? This time I beat him first try. I just spammed the double overhead smash over and over again. And I'd like to think that Chuck Knuckles is just so done with everyone's bullshit in this place that he just wasn't going to take a loss as an answer. So after some punches and bunches, this guy is done. Now I can finally do the main boss here and get the hell out. So time to finish what I came here to do. I mean, it's awfully quiet in here. I mean, it is a library, but this is weird. Oh, what the hell? Okay, what's actually going on here though, for real? Does she bite your character's foot? And then why does she look so happy about it afterwards? But who am I to kink shame? In fact, why don't you just meet me after the fight? I can get down with that. I mean, shit, you can bring some of your sisters along too. But anyway, yep, this is the boss fight. Making me fight a group of disabled women. There is no limit to their depravity, is there? But if you notice, they are throwing books at me. And Chuck Knuckles can't read, so he takes that as an insult. Honestly, it feels like Renata wasn't expecting someone to get this far, and when I came in she was like totally not ready, and that's why she's just floating up there, because she didn't have anything prepared. But if you kill 3 of her daughters that are highlighted in gold and singing, then she comes falling back down to earth. But instead of catching her, I'm going to make her catch these hands. And that's basically the entire game plan for this fight. And if you're lucky / overleveled, you might kill her in one go, but chances are you'll get her to about 40% health and then she'll float back up to the ceiling again. And then you just rinse and repeat. And it gets me thinking, right? Because they know that I'm hunting the ones that are glowing gold. So when it comes to their turn to go gold, do you reckon they're just scared shitless? Like, oh no, pick someone else. But anyway, you don't need to see me kill them, let's just cut to me beating this boss. Honestly, I'm kind of annoyed I went through so much just to fight a really easy boss. But at least I'm done with this place for good now. Okay, we all know this was coming. Yep, she has 2 phases, and now it's time for the real fight. I really don't like this boss. Like, it's bad enough you have to go through that boring first phase, but then she turns into the patron saint of spell spamming. I mean look, is this a boss fight or a fireworks show? Come on. I can't tell if she's trying to kill me with the spell or just give me an epileptic seizure. Oh my god. Chuck Knuckles was right to dislike magic users, that's all I'm saying. Okay, instant rematch time. A woman who knows a monumental amount of spells versus a man who can't even spell the word monumental. Yeah, for some reason I've made it canon now that Chuck Knuckles is illiterate. Don't know why I'm doing him so harsh, but whatever. And yeah, I decided there's no point in showing you the first phase again. Like, I know From Software likes to put puzzle bosses into their games, and unless my memory's failing me, I'm pretty sure this is the only boss in this game that has like puzzle boss elements to it. But at least there's an actual fight in the second phase, even if she is shamelessly spell spamming the whole time. I guarantee she's the kind of person that just button mashes in fighting games. I mean, I do that too, but I suck at fighting games, so that's besides the point. Actually, I think a good way of describing this fight to someone that can't see it, like, you know those retro bullet hell games where there's like a million things coming at you at once and you have to somehow dodge past everything? This boss is a third-person RPG version of those. Oh, and by the way, she summons help as well. What an absolute heathen. So not only do you have to dodge her arcane barrage, you have to dodge her magical pets too. I mean, luckily you don't have to actually kill them, you can just sort of run away and they time out, but I still think it's cheesy beyond all comprehension. Her summons do get more and more crazy though, so you can't really just ignore them. For example, this guy who almost one-shot me with his bloodhound gang, I mean Fang. And then she summons a goddamn giant. Oh my god. None of that matters though, because she can't summon the heart and integrity that Chuck Knuckles has. And you can be the queen of the full moon, but Chuck Knuckles doesn't even believe in the moon. He just thinks it's the back of the sun. But you don't need to be smart to know how to knock someone out. The man even has the energy to get some post-fight squats in. Also, here's a quick stat update. I got up endurance so I could spam my jump smash more. Now, after that fight, people are starting to take notice. I actually got invited to the capital city for my next fight. Everything's coming up Millhouse. Except I need like 2 amulets or something to make this lift work. I swear I am always just locked out of places. But it's okay, because I know where to get them. It's time to be like my favourite indie game of all time and do some castle crashing. The first one had a bunch of dudes outside trying to impede my progress. Because you know what it can be like sometimes. People don't want you to be successful, they get jealous, they try to sabotage you. But Chuck Knuckles will not be dismayed. So I pick up the golden seed, and head inside, where I fight this guy, who apparently loves making people bleed as much as I do. Sadly for him though, I'm pretty over leveled for this part of the game. I hit him with my special move, and all of his blood forcibly leaves his body. Maybe I should come up with a name for the special move. The Knuckle Duster maybe? I don't know, I'll put a pin on that and then I'll come back to it later. For now though, I'll pick up what I came here to get, and I'll move on to the next one. Oh yeah, and really quick, I forgot about Godric's Great Rune, so go and restore that. But anyway, I make it to the next castle and it's a bit of a shithole because there are bats everywhere. But I leave them alone because if there's one thing I learned from the pandemic is that humans and bats should stay well away from each other. One thing I won't stay away from, however, is the second part of the medallion. Right, back to the lift. And I know what some of you might say, why am I even bothering with the lift? I could have just gone through those caves and fought the lava wyvern and just bypass all of this stuff. But my real in-depth, honest answer about why I didn't do that is, I didn't wanna. Now that that's settled with. For some reason this cutscene of just the lift coming down is like a feature length film, so I had to skip that shit. This is ridiculous. But I'm through to the other side and my goal is just on the horizon. I'm gonna break into the city, put on a striking clinic against my next opponent, and move ever closer to the Elden Ring, which I presume is some sort of title belt. Time for a quick glove update. I went through a few mines, picked up a bunch of smithing stones, and so I get my spiky boys from +7 to +9. At last, I made it to the city gates. Looks like these guys are waiting to go in as well. Alright guys, do you know what time the doors open? Oh shit. Alright, calm down mate, it was just a question. I don't care how long you've been waiting out here, there's no need for that. What a dick. Oh, and brilliant, the doors are locked, of course they are. Oh fuck this, I'll go around the back then. I swear, Chuck Knuckles gets no respect. But anyway, as I was circling around to the back entrance, I couldn't help but wonder who my next opponent would be. I mean, a fight in the capital city is a pretty big deal. But funny enough, my next opponent revealed himself.
I see thee, tarnished, smouldering with that wretched flame of ambition.
That's right, Margit's back. He appears out of nowhere and hits a really cool promo, but then a guy starts attacking me. So I appreciate you trying to sell the fight, but let's save the fighting for when we're actually going to fight. And so I refused to fight and let him beat me. Totally not because I just got outplayed and he destroyed me. Okay, he beat me fair and square, but it wasn't an official fight, so it's not going to go on my record. But this was some exciting news. A high profile rematch against the first guy I ever fought. I can't wait. Now I just have to slip into the back door and get into this city. Except it's not going to be that easy. You see, it turns out I have to have this fight with this guy guarding the door in order to get in. And he is strong. He was so strong in fact that I spent the next couple hours collecting as many smithing stones as I could. I won't show you the process because it's really boring, but here's what I ended up with. And so I got my regular Castus, that's right, the regular Castus, all the way up to level 14. Yep, I figured now would be a good time to switch over from Spike to the regular. Mainly so that people can't say that I was abusing the bleed mechanic the whole time. Which I guess I have been doing so far, to be fair. So I figured now would be a good turning point. A hard fight where I really have to prove myself. But now I feel confident and ready to prove myself. My weapon's upgraded, time to dance. Okay, I still wasn't ready, he's too strong. In fact, this guy killed me over. And over. And over again. Oh, fuck you. I won't show you every time he killed me, but just know that he killed me 7 times in total. But does Chuck Knuckles give up? No. Or does he go back to the spiked Castus and let the bleed do all the work for him? Again, no. Although I was tempted, I will be honest. But what I did do is upgrade the regular Castus one more time, hoping that would make the difference. But this time I will not be refused. I'm going to make it into this city and you're not going to stop me this time. I start the fight out super strongly. Before I was being way too greedy and staying close to him for too long. This time I was picking my shots and being patient. And I'll need all the patience I can muster because this is going to take a while. Because I'm trying to punch a guy who's wearing the thickest plate armor I've ever seen. And he's on a horse that's wearing the thickest plate armor I've ever seen. Another problem with this guy is that you're not safe anywhere you stand. You're not safe at range because his horse is also a dragon for some reason. And you're not safe up close either because he will destroy you with his massive hammer. I mean, he looks like someone from Monster Hunter with how crazy his gear is. And when you think he can't get any harder, he taps into the power of lightning. Yeah, that seems fair. And now all of his attacks have a big old lightning AoE effect. Awesome! The guy's a prick. Okay fine, you've got your big fancy horse, your lightning attacks, your armor. And Chuck Knuckles doesn't have much, but if there's something he does have in spades, it's tenacity. I guess you could say that this time, I wasn't horsing around. With that behind me, finally, at long last, I'm in the city. And this place is breathtaking. It's probably my favourite area in the whole game. And it's pretty overwhelming for Chuck Knuckles because he comes from the mountains. But we're not here on leisure, we're not here to sightsee, we're here on business. Now this is obviously a very, very big place, so I'll just show you all the highlights. I played hide and seek with a giant tree monster. Oh lord, it's coming. Alright, I better skedaddle and find a better place. I don't know how it could find me if it doesn't have eyes, but you know, better safe than sorry. This is better, this is better. There's no way it finds me here. I'm so good at hide and seek. Oh. Okay, you won. Fair enough. I admit. What are you doing? Oh shit. I climbed up the giant dragon statue. Thankfully this one was an actual statue this time, didn't come to life. I mean, I don't particularly feel like trying to run away from Godzilla. And then some security guards started chasing me because he said tourists aren't allowed to climb onto the statue. But it ended with this long stare down. Was it a look of anger? Maybe it was a look of admiration because he's secretly a fan. Or maybe it was a lustful look. We'll never know. And it was at this point that I realised that the boss I just fought was optional. Yep, that's right, the really difficult to kill gatekeeper. You can bypass him thanks to this chest in the world that teleports you straight into the heart of the city. Oh, for God's sake, you fucking moron. But then, just as I was making my way to the top of the city, another surprise fight, and with Godfrey as well, who I've heard is quite a big important fella around these parts. And he's a fellow jump attack connoisseur, so he had my respect immediately. Shit. Okay, first time around I just wasn't ready. He dunked on me pretty hard, I'll accept that. But this second round was all me. I'll be honest, I spammed the same thing over and over again. I have no shame, it's my best move. And if my opponents don't have a counter for it, it's not my fault, it's their fault. And this here is a great example of why I do it. Not only does it do pretty decent damage, it also ruins people's poise, allowing me to get in some free shots without having to worry about getting splattered across the floor. And now he is hurting for certain, but he keeps up the aggressive pace and we trade a couple jump strikes, but this fight is as good as done. Big man, you've got my respect. I like the way you're glowing gold, that's pretty dope. I like your fighting style even though you're using an axe. And you may be the first lord, but what's a Godfrey to a non-believer free? You know, considering how famous that guy is, he was a bit of a pushover when it came to the fight. Ah well, I'm sure I'll never see him again. Speaking of seeing people again, coming up next, the Margit rematch. But first, here's a quick look at my stats. I'm still basically just piling everything into strength and vigour, and I've sort of left endurance in the dust for now, but I'll get it up later. Also, I'll go back to home base and get my gloves up to plus 16. So here we go, we're wasting no time here. Time to finish this rivalry once and for all.
Graceless, tarnished.
And this guy is immediately talking shit. Apparently Chuck Knuckles is living in his head rent free after that first loss. And apparently that first loss affected him so bad he changed his name. But the best thing he could come up with was Margot instead of Margit. Not really a creative powerhouse, this guy. Another thing you'll notice is that his moveset is largely the same for the most part. He still has his like glowy faith weapons he summons, and he still has a ridiculously long wind up to every single attack for some reason. Honestly, that's one of the things I don't like about this game, is how many delay attacks there are that bosses have. However, since this is basically the start of the late game, his attacks do a crazy amount of damage compared to last time, especially on someone not wearing any armor whatsoever. And he basically crushes me. Honestly, I think it's kind of suspicious how strong he's got, especially since he's an old man. Come on now, you're on steroids, Margot, admit it. And I wish I could tell you that my second attempt was a lot better, but it just wasn't. I mean, this guy's out here using Swords of Revealing Light. He has the power of God and anime on his side, confirmed. But most importantly, and the worst thing of all, is he learned how to counter my jump and strike. This really is going to be hard. And then there's this run. This was my closest one yet. I had him lower than I've ever had before, but I was completely out of potions. But then all of a sudden, he drops down to one knee. I didn't know if I'd injured him, or if he was just having a heart attack because of the rampant steroids abuse. This guy out here really putting the boom in Boomer. That's right, it was no heart attack, it was his special attack. Another crippling loss. Plus there were 4 other times he beat me that I didn't even show you. Was this guy just out of my league? Hell no, I just need a little vacation. Just a quick break to unwind, relax, refocus, come up with a new game plan. And so that's what I did. And so I visited a place called Volcano Manor. I thought it sounded quite nice, like a spa resort. You know, might have some hot springs, mud baths, you know, maybe a sauna. But no, they had none of that. But I did find a smithing stone. But then some guy attacked me with a weapon that looked like it was from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But I don't take kindly to people bothering me on vacation, so I turned this chucklehead into a knucklehead. But that one smithing stone I picked up was all I needed for one more upgrade. Not a big difference, but every little helps. So let's see just how much it does help. Another thing I'm going to do this time is use a rune arc. And because I've got Godric's Great Rune equipped, I get +5 to all my stats. But it's not steroids, I swear, it's just a natural supplement. He is the one on steroids, not me. Another thing I used is rock grease. If he wants to fight dirty, I can fight dirtier than anyone. Because Chuck Knuckles just rubbed poo all over his fists. And that's right, Chuck Knuckles refuses to use magic, so he uses biological warfare. And for anybody that doesn't know, if I hit someone enough times with rock grease on my gloves, then they get inflicted with rot, which slowly melts their HP away. It's some really nasty shit, literally. It doesn't last forever though, but it lasts for quite a while. But what I could technically do is just keep applying it and keep infecting him, and then just run away from him until he melts to death slowly. But this is too personal for that. I need this to be a proper beatdown. This time though, I play it smart and don't get caught in his boomer burst. I mean, just listen to this bitch. That scream was definitely a mixture of roid rage and the hatred of youth and their liberal progressive ways. The future's now, old man. Yeah, well, deal with it, you geriatric fuck. At this point, I knew I had him. I was in his head again. Who'd have thought that punching someone with hands covered in shit would trigger someone so much? I mean, calm down mate, it'll wash off. Relax. Then he tries to resort to the power of anime one more time as a last ditch effort to try and kill me. But joke's on him, I watch anime too. But now I'm about to end this man's whole career. And I mean that literally, because I'm going to retire this old man. This rivalry is over. And I won. Well, technically I beat him twice and he beat me about 12 times, so you know, I'll just choose to forget that. And this, boys and girls, is what happens when you stop taking steroids. Your body just shrivels up. I mean, this dude is worse than Vitor Belfort. But get this, even when he's a shriveled little raisin man, he's still talking shit. Oh, just give it a break, old man, you've lost. You know what, here's one for the road. Oh, and fuck your couch too. But I've done it, I made it to the Erd Tree. This is where the champion lives, and this is where I can get my title shot. This is what it's all been leading up to. Wait, what? Oh, it's locked! Oh, for fuck's sake. Yep, that's right, another locked door. I was so annoyed that I called my manager, and she had a plan.
I can set the Erd Tree aflame.
I don't know if she means that literally, but fuck it, I'll go with it. And with that medallion she gave me, it opens up a huge new part of the map. It's time for one last adventure. But first, here is the customary post-boss fight stat check, and we're off into the snowy, desolate shithole. I arrive at this new lift that I'm supposed to go up, and wouldn't you know it, there's someone trying to stop me. In this case, this someone is like a 20-foot statue gargoyle thing. But Chuck Knuckles is done with people trying to stop him from going where he wants to go, so I gave him the business. Genuinely beat it first try, I was really proud of that. Don't get me wrong, he almost got me a couple times. But Chuck Knuckles is over being denied entry into places. I hit him with the stagger, and then I finish it up with a God of War style execution kill. God damn, was that satisfying. And I had to savour that feeling because it's all pain and suffering from here on out. Because after I skip this excruciatingly long cutscene, we have entered the late game. Also known as the worst part of this game by far. So here's why I hate the late game so bad. The first reason being is the insane difficulty spike. All the bosses from this point out feel like 10 times harder than any of the bosses before. This has nothing to do with what I'm showing you right now. I just wanted to show you it because it's yet another thing that should have handrails. But you'll see what I mean about the difficulty when I fight the next boss. For now though, I want to talk about the second part, which is the level design. Or I guess the lack thereof, because from this point it just feels so barren and empty. I guarantee they put this dragon here just to have something to fill up this space. But it all just feels so lifeless and soulless at this point. The rest of the world before this felt so alive and you just wanted to explore everywhere. But at this point you can just tell that they had a time crunch and just sort of rushed out the ending. Which makes you as a player just want to rush through it as well. And the mountaintops of the giants are no better as well. There's basically nothing to do here other than run past everything that's killing each other and hope they don't kill you as well. I mean, Chuck Knuckles is from the mountains, so he loves this place, he feels at home. But I hate it. When you finally made it through the dismal landscape, say hello to the fire giant. This guy definitely isn't in the same weight division. Whoever signed off on this fight should be ashamed. But I'll give it a try, you never know. His first phase is relatively simple. You see, he has a weak ankle and you just have to hit it until it breaks. But the problem is, he does a shit ton of damage, and because he's so big, if he takes one step, that weak foot is suddenly like 50 foot away from you. And that probably wouldn't be a problem for anyone that likes riding the horse into a fight, but I really don't like doing that at all. By the way, the reason why I'm using the lightning grease is because he's very slightly weaker to lightning than anything else. You could barely notice a difference though. For flavour, let's just say he's holding 2 batteries in his fists. Now that he broke his ankle brace, the second part of the first phase begins, where my man starts pulling fire out of his stomach. And this is when it actually gets hard. That first tiny bit of the first phase is actually pretty easy. So now not only do you have to look out for his giant melee attacks that can one-shot you, you have to look out for his fire attacks that can one-shot you. And it's all just very frustrating. The fact that when you hit his weak spot you still don't really do that much damage, and you're constantly just chasing him around, which gets exhausting for both me and Chuck Knuckles. Don't get me wrong, I love the spectacle of it all. Fighting a fire-breathing giant on a mountaintop is pretty damn cool, I'll admit, but for 95% of the fight all you can see is his feet, and he's not been taking good care of them, I'll tell you that much. He must smell so bad, but no matter how bad this guy stinks, he's still incredibly dangerous. This is going to take a while. This is 2 attempts later and I actually did pretty good this time. I punched that big old ankle enough to get him to phase 2. And this is where shit gets crazy. I skipped the cutscene because I was full of adrenaline, but the dude ripped his own leg off. Yeah, say what you want about the guy, but he is tough. He is committed. And now the dude's basically a living volcano, and he's more dangerous than ever now, especially when he hits you with a goddamn elbow drop. Who would have thought that having a fist fight with a guy that weighs 1,000 times more than you would be difficult? And then 2 more attempts later, see what I mean when I say this guy's like a volcano? And again, to be fair, I do really like the design. The whole creepy eye and face and mouth on his stomach, and the fact that it feels like you're fighting a living natural disaster. It's super dramatic, it's incredibly tense the whole time because there's so many things to dodge, and it should be fun, but it just isn't. His weak point now when he's in this form is his left forearm, but I swear hitting him there doesn't do any more extra damage. So most of the time it's better to not even bother trying to hit his forearm, because he moves it around so fucking much as well that it just feels pointless. It's most likely safer if you just stay around the back and hit his legs, but as you can see, nowhere safe with this guy. At this point I felt like I just had to get stronger before facing him again, so I thought I'd try my luck grinding in Castle Sol. What a mistake this was, because this area is in the late game, and so even non-boss enemies are incredibly hard. I hate these enemies so much with their anime protagonist moves. And this is kind of a problem, because there's an area called the Consecrated Snowfields, that in order to get there you have to beat the boss of this place. And I knew for a fact I wouldn't be able to beat him, but there's a mine in that area that's got all the stuff I need to get stronger. So what did I do? Try my best to fight the boss? Of course I didn't. I just skipped the whole area. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to jump straight to the Consecrated Snowfields. You're going to want to come to this area on the map here. It's one of those Spirit Spring jump well things, I don't know what they're called. Then you stand here, make sure you face south-southwest, make sure you're looking all the way down, and then when you jump, keep looking down, and then when the line of your compass meets the mountains in the background, that's when you jump left. And you'll know when you've done it right when your guy just keeps falling, he doesn't die. And then what you want to do is quit out and load the game again, and this will put you here, but we haven't made it yet, and don't worry if it takes a couple tries to get here. It took me about 5 times to get it right. But from here you want to do like this angular double jump onto this rock, and now it's time to climb down the side of this cliff face on horseback. It sounds a lot harder than it is. This is actually the simplest part of this by far. From here you just want to drop down to this little ledge here, and then you're going to have to do another angled double jump. Again, it's a lot easier than it looks. From here you're going to want to sort of wedge your horse in this position and just keep running forwards, and then do one single jump and you've made it over the kill box. And then there's just a few more drops. It's not too high, you shouldn't lose that much health, but when you've done with that you're actually in the area. However, the important thing here is, I know there's stakes of Marika around, but I was still so paranoid about dying and having to go all the way back and do that again, so finding another site of grace ASAP is always a good idea. But because this place is yet another boring foggy wasteland, it's kinda hard to see them. But anyway, now that that's done with, I'm just gonna jump cut to the reason I came here for. Smithing stones, baby. Yep, this mine is absolutely teeming with them. Not only are there smithing stone 8s, but I can also get an ancient dragon smithing stone here. However, I was still missing some smithing stone 7s, so I can't upgrade my knuckles to max just yet. But right now I want to talk about something I've barely touched on this whole video, the talismans I'm using. I went exploring and found some new fancy talismans, but for the sake of the length of the video I won't show you where I got them from. But I'll explain what they do. From left to right we have the Crimson Amber Medallion I started the game with, increases my health. Then we have the Claw Talisman, which increases jump attack damage, which is brilliant for me. Then I've got the Star Scourge Heirloom, which increases my strength by 5, also very good. And then finally the Flame Drake Talisman +1, which obviously increases my fire resistance. But will these make a difference against Mr. Big and Spicy over here? Some of you may have noticed already that I'm using the Cragblade Ash of War on my knuckles. I know I said at the beginning that I wouldn't use any magical Ashes of War, but in my head, Chuck Knuckles' hands are so dense and heavy that they have their own gravitational pull at this point. Therefore, not magic, therefore checkmate. Plus I was barely using the dash one I had. I'm sure some of you noticed and I'm sure it drove you insane. I can only apologise. I suppose I should explain the Cragblade Dash of War if you don't know what it is. Basically, Chuck Knuckles punches a hole in the floor, and then pieces of rock and mud are attracted to his hands through sheer force of will. Or maybe the ground itself is just a fan, who knows. But this is just a weapon buff that increases my attack damage and increases my poise damage. So my jump attacks are going to stagger people even more now. However, I am ready to move on from the fire giant and I'm sure you'll all agree. And remember this, it's not about the size of the dog in the fight, it's the amount of fight that's in the dog. And Chuck Knuckles got that dog in him. One last thing I'll say about the fire giant is that I think it would have been really interesting if they went a different approach. It would have been really interesting if you could climb up him and then attack different weak points while he tries to shake you off. I mean, it would have been an exact copy of Shadow of the Colossus, but it would have been fun. More fun than chasing around his hands and legs. But anyway, it's over now, I can move on. Stat check. But now it's time to climb up into this big old bowl and find out what my manager meant about setting fire to the oak tree. Because I think that was like a joke or like a metaphor. Oh wait, no shit, she wasn't lying. Oh my god, she set herself on fire as well. Yeah, this got out of hand. That's what happens when you play with fire, kids. Things can go wrong. Well, Chuck Knuckles did all he could to try and save her, so he just had to stand there watching her burn away. But she died as she lived, being a fucking great manager.
Goodbye.
After that tragic accident, Chuck Knuckles took her death pretty hard and got blackout drunk, and when he woke up he was in a crazy place he's never been before. This is Crumbling Farum Azula, and I hate this place, because the bosses here are a absolute nightmare. Don't get me wrong, the design of this place is very cool. It looks great, but I hate being here. The first section before the first boss isn't too bad I suppose, the minor enemies are manageable, and I managed to get every smithing stone I needed. So now it's time for my gloves to be in their final form. Spoiler alert, they still kinda suck. Or maybe they would feel strong if it wasn't for the bosses I'm about to fight being completely unfair. That's right, I said bosses. Prepare for trouble and make it double. Welcome to the nightmare that is the Godskin duo fight. These Michelin Man fanboys are incredibly annoying. They're probably my least favourite boss in the whole game, because not only do you have to fight two bosses at the same time, which is always just awful, but they're not even new bosses. You can fight these guys singularly like multiple times throughout the whole game. I'm sure it makes sense lore wise for them to show up here, but I remember when I first got here in my first playthrough I just thought they'd run out of ideas. So as you can see, they both take basically no damage from my attacks, which always feels really great after you fully upgrade your weapon. Who wants to feel strong in a video game? Not me, that's boring, hahaha. I love feeling like I'm trying to swim upstream in a rapidly flowing river. Like, I know I'm doing a challenge run, but come on. But anyway, as you can see, I'm not doing very well here. When you try and hit one of them, the chances of you not getting hit by one of them is so incredibly low. In fact, you know what? You know I'm gonna die at this attempt. Let's not waste any time here. And then after this, they killed me about 8 more times. But then I had an idea. What if I could put one of them to sleep? What if I used soporific grease on my gloves? Honestly, I was gonna make a Jeffrey Dahmer related joke about spiking my gloves or something, but I feel like that would be in poor taste. Anyway, the idea here is if I get one of them to sleep, then it's just a one-on-one fight. But after hitting one of them quite a few times, it just felt like it wasn't going to work. However many hits it takes to get one of them to sleep, I didn't have enough time or life to be able to pull it off. And with that, it was back to the drawing board. And by drawing board, I mean Google. Yeah, I looked it up because fuck this boss. And it turns out that putting him to sleep is the best method. However, using the sleep jar is way more effective. And I think I said before that I wasn't going to use any ranged or throwable weapons. But technically, since they don't do any damage, they're not really a weapon. So as soon as the fight started, I threw a pot at the one that looks like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and he went out like a light. That's right, sun's getting real low, big fella. The skinny one though had his dancing shoes on, because he was dodging all of them for fun. Eventually though, he zigged when he should have zagged and dodged right into the smoke cloud. Time to get to work. I get up behind him and try and do as much damage as I possibly can before he gets up and one-shots me. And so when he woke up, it was only a couple more hits and he was done. Unfortunately, the fat fella woke up, so I couldn't do the exact same thing to him, but at least it was a one-on-one fight now. But as you can see, he's still annoying as fuck to fight. The fat guy used rollout, it was super effective, but soon this albino Snorlax was dead as well. But you might be thinking they still have 40% health left, what's going on here? Well, that's because it's not over yet. That's right, as a bonus hilarious surprise, these guys share a health bar, and so when you kill them both, it's not enough. And I was out of FP to throw sleeping pots. Fantastic. And they would have come very much in handy because the skinny guy summons the fat guy yet again. We're effectively right where the fight started, yet again. And so I charged in, throwing caution to the wind, hoping to take one of them down as quick as I can to get it back to being a 1 versus 1. The skinny guy was my target, and I made short work of him. Well, after he almost killed me, but he didn't last long after that. Just one more. He might look like he's more than one person, but it's just one person. But he was no match for the physical specimen that is Chuck Knuckles. You can call me diabetes because I'm about to ruin this fat guy's life. The last thing he ever ate was a knuckle sandwich. Whew, thank fuck that's over with. I'm sure after this will be plain sailing. I mean shit, you know it's a hard fight when you walk in a brunette and walk out a redhead. But anyway, here are my stats, hashtag gains, and we're moving on to Crumbling Farah Missoula Part 2, aka the worst part. The enemies get even more annoying. I mean this part with all the birds and the dragon shooting at you the whole time. I had to wear armour just so I didn't die immediately. But it's not cheating, I didn't use it in a boss fight so we're good. It's just like a beekeeper using a beekeeping suit. Sometimes you just gotta know when to wrap it up. But worst of all, by far, is the boss I'm about to fight. This is easily one of the most frustrating bosses in the game. It might not look it, because I actually do surprisingly really well against this first phase. I'd like to think it's because Chuck Knuckles doesn't know where he is, he's frustrated, confused, he just wants to go home. He came here hoping to find some directions, you know, a train station maybe, or a taxi, but all he found was this big old dude trying to fight him. And Chucky Knuckles is always down for a punch up, and so he's happy to oblige. By the way, this is the Beast Clergyman, and his whole shtick is like geomancy kind of stuff. He will throw rocks, he will make the ground shake, he will just be annoying the whole time. But he's not the only one that can manipulate the earth, because these knuckles with the crag blades on them actually do decent damage to the guy. Especially when I hit him with the world renowned, world feared double overhand smash from Chuck Knuckles. Time for the dreaded Phase 2. Yeah, this boss is basically the poor man's Ludwig fight from Bloodborne. You know, he's like more of a beast at the beginning and then he pulls out a sword and he holds up to his face. Then he has all these like AoE weapon attacks. Except the music in Ludwig, the lore of Ludwig, everything about Ludwig is 100 times better. But unfortunately I'm not fighting Ludwig right now, I'm fighting Malekith, who loves spamming attacks. And each time he hits you, not only does it do a shitload of damage, your health also burns on top of that. So yeah, he basically killed me straight away. But the second time around, I absolutely destroy the Beast Clergyman. I mean, it wasn't even close. I put on a striking clinic on this guy. You may as well just switch to your Malekith form now, mate, because you got no chance against Chuck. There is levels to this game, and you are not on mine. I was just in the zone. Didn't have to use any healing, I was basically fresh for Malekith. This time it'll be different. This time it's Chuck's time to shine. Alright, here we go. I felt confident, I had momentum on my side. And Malekith? Well, Malekith didn't really give a shit. He one-shot most of my health and watched as what remained burnt down, my confidence burning with it. Boy am I glad I chose not to wear armor. Really not regretting that at all right now. That was smart. Oh, fuck my life. But you might be thinking, hey, it's not all that bad. At least you can comfortably and reliably beat his first phase every time. And that's what I thought as well. Except apparently this dude was sandbagging, trying to give me false hope or something. Because he was way harder this time. However, I still beat him in the end, but I wasn't liking my chances. So then naturally I do really well against Malekith. I managed to avoid getting one shot for a while. I managed to find incredibly rare windows where he's actually hittable. It was only my third attempt, but I thought I could do this. But alas, there is levels to this shit and I am not on his. And then my next attempt was just terrible. After that I knew I had to come up with a different angle. And so I went to this part of Mogwin Palace and killed these dudes over and over again, farming up runes to get stronger. And I go from level 109 to 113. I would have done it for longer, but I got bored. But did this help me? It may only be 4 levels, but a little can go a long way. Oh no, of course it didn't help, I got smashed. 11 times in a row in fact. But then, I died another 6 times in a row. But then, I was pretty desperate. So I found this guy called Blackguard in Leona Lakes, who sells a special kind of seafood. These prawns he sells will improve your defense for about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. I mean, I'm not much of a seafood guy, but fuck it, I'll try it. So I bought 35 grand's worth of them. So let's see how much they help. It definitely helped against the first phase, but the first phase is either incredibly easy or absolutely impossible, there is no middle ground. But can I beat his second phase now that I'm full of prawns? I'll tell you this much though, the one thing I wouldn't want to do after eating a shitload of prawns is have a fight. But Chuck Knuckles is built different. He's here to eat prawns and beat the shit out of this boss. And he's all out of prawns. Well, not really, I've got about 30 of them left. But anyway, while Malekith tried his usual bullshit, for once I actually stayed calm. To be fair, it is very easy to panic when all it would take is one hit from this guy and I'm pretty much dead. And he is incredibly hard and annoying to hit, because he doesn't leave very many openings, and sometimes the hitboxes can just fuck you over. He did still almost kill me, because I think I'm kinda good at the game, but nowhere near good enough to avoid every single one of the 1,000 attacks he spams. But I continued to stay calm. Thanks to the use of the prawns, I still had plenty of healing left, since I took much less damage from the first phase. Okay, I wasn't completely calm, I was shitting myself. My heartbeat was going like 200 beats per minute, my palms were sweaty, there was vomit on my case just already, Blackguard's prawns. The key thing though is that I didn't let it affect the fight. Okay, here we go, he's about 1 hit left, but then he does his most annoying move. His jumping ranged slash attack, followed up with one big dash and slash. But he didn't kill me this time. And now I'm about to answer the age old question of who let the dogs out. It was Chuck Knuckles. You get it, because he kinda looks like a you know what, fuck off. You come up with a witty line every time you kill a boss. I'm out here busting my hump, trying my best. Okay, things got a little heated there. That boss was just really frustrating, you know, you understand. Now back to the video. Suddenly the room started to burn. The flames growing, getting brighter, stronger, and then swallowing everything. Chuck couldn't help but think, is this what my manager felt? She went through all of that for me? And that's when he woke up. It was all just a nightmare. Faramazula, all of the boss fights, the burning, all of it. He was blacked out this whole time. Chuck takes a mental note to himself to see a counsellor after all this is done, because he's not afraid to seek help, and neither should you be. But anyway, he woke up back in Lanedale, and something feels a bit different here. Can't quite put my finger on it. Oh, I know what it is. All of the enemies are gone. Well, that's good. Okay, but for real, someone get this city some lotion, because this bitch is ashy. Here are my stats again. Also, here are the talismans I used for that fight. I really love this small section of the game, just walking around like this, because it feels like walking through the aftermath of like a nuke or something, but at the same time is oddly peaceful and calm. Such a great moment, and such an amazing area. But with all of this done, Chuck can finally fight the last boss and get that title belt. No one's standing in my way now. Oh god damn it, who's this? I don't even know who you are. Oh, I think you're the guy that just hangs around the round table hold. Why are you even getting involved? You know what, I have no time for pleasantries, I'm just gonna punch you in the back. I'm sure this guy's really easy and won't be incredibly annoying to fight. He's still babbling on about whatever the fuck even though I'm beating the shit out of him. And he pulls out the Destructo disc. You're not Krillin. We just plagiarizing people's attacks now. Well whatever, he's almost dead. I'm gonna put him out of his misery and move on with my life. Oh, and then he does it again. Oh, and then he healed himself. Brilliant. I mean, what's he gonna do next? Hit me with the Kamehameha? Oh, come on. This guy has no shame, it's official. He's just stealing other people's moves. Well, I'd like to see you try and steal this. This move still needs a name. You could call it the Knuckle Duster, or maybe even the Chuck Shot. Oh shit, that damage. Man, I swear this guy just never stops. It's just spell after spell with this guy. My nickname for this guy now is Spam Margera, because he's a spell spamming jackass. But this is the one stunt he shouldn't have pulled, and there's no skating out of this one. Man, fuck this dude. Alright, let me just interrupt his attack. Oh fuck. Who are you calling fellow? I am not your friend, mate. I'll say it again, why the fuck are you even involved? Okay, I'm clearly not a fan of this boss, so I'll speed through this. Although I will show you this. This really pissed me off at the time, but in hindsight you just have to appreciate how much of a freak specimen you have to be to accidentally jump over a guy when you're trying to hit him. This boss is so fucking lame. Okay, but this is the one. I take cover behind these pillars so I can buff myself up without having to dodge his endless spray and pray of spells. I bait out his magic daggers and then I'm on him like a panther, just interrupting his spells over and over again. Not giving him a second to react. It was like an artillery strike of fists. But that's when his bullshit get out of jail free card spell almost killed me immediately. God fucking damn, do I hate that thing. I dodged more of his spells before I saw my window to strike. Your magic won't save you now. Good fucking riddance. And even when he's dying he's still trying to monologue about something or other. But anyway, this guy did actually kill me 9 times, so here's my record. I wouldn't necessarily say he was hard, just incredibly annoying. But here is the obligatory stat check. But now it's time for the final fight, surely. I'm just gonna walk in here, go into the tree, have my last fight. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, who is this? Wait, is that Godfrey? But like the real version this time? Oh shit. Hold up, why are you being spooned from behind by the big lion man? I mean, I'm not judging you, it's just, is now the time for that? Chuck already respected Godfrey from their first fight. I mean, he was all yellow, clearly suffering from extreme jaundice, and he's a legend. He didn't want to fight him now. But that's when he looked up and saw the burning tree, a constant reminder of the responsibility that hangs on his shoulders. Okay then, let's fight. And so it begins. This first attempt was at the tail end of a 2.5 hour session, so I was pretty burnt out already, I just wanted to give it a go. And during my first playthrough of this game, this boss took me forever to kill. Every time he did one of his ground slam attacks, it always caught me. But now that I permanently do nothing but jumping attacks, I actually avoided most of them. And surprisingly, I was actually doing relatively decent damage to the guy. I mean, obviously nowhere near the damage he's doing to me. He hits like a truck, I'm hitting him like a tricycle. But the hardest part about this boss fight is how easy it is to stun lock you. If he hits you once, he's probably going to hit you again. And when you're not wearing armor, 2 hits is all it takes. And this is basically the story of the whole fight. Getting hit once snowballs into basically almost dying. And yeah, I know that's true about most bosses, but with Godfrey it just feels way worse. I don't know if it's like a placebo effect, like it's all in my head, but it just feels like suffocating. You have maybe like a second log window to get a heal off, before he's back in your face trying to smash you. The blame's not all on him though. I think this fight just emphasises parts of the game that I just really hate. I hate how long it takes to heal, and yeah, it might only be a couple seconds, but in a boss fight, that's like an eternity. Compare it to Bloodborne where the guy just stabs himself in the leg, it doesn't take a second. But in this game your dude's like, oh yeah, that's good, oh just hang there a second mate, I'm almost done, oh this is really nice. He's there fucking savouring it, swirling it around in his mouth like he's wine tasting. And don't even get me started on how long it takes for your guy to get up from the floor. It may not seem like a long time when you're watching it back, but during the fight itself it feels like your guy's down there forever. It feels like he's down there just waking up from a nap. He's like, 5 more minutes, don't get me up yet. It's like, dude, have some fucking urgency. There's a giant man there with an axe trying to kill you. Act accordingly. He did kill me that last run by the way, obviously, since I'm on a different attempt. But this is the one where I actually get him to his second phase. Yep, he has a second phase, because of course he does. He's a late game boss in Elden Ring. But at least, just like Malekith, they share one health bar. Because it'd obviously be really scummy if each phase had their own life bar, right? But this game wouldn't do that, right? But anyway, this is Godfrey's second phase. He goes on about how he's got a new name now. I didn't pay attention to that part. But what I do know is that he is a warrior. Okay, I didn't ask, but thanks for telling me, I guess. Well, I say that, but in his second phase, the guy fights barehanded, and that is a warrior in my book. Now this is an MMA fight. I mean, the dude is still twice Chuck's height and about 4 times his weight, but you'll take what you can get in this game. In all honesty though, I hate this second phase, because he gets even more aggressive, and the dude still loves his ground slams. I will admit though, this part's on me, I should have easily dodged both of those. And he also has a grapple, which I luckily dodged here. Getting hit by grapples in this game is probably the most annoying part. Also, it has to be said that his striking technique is pretty atrocious. He's sort of just flailing around, he's not even closing his fists, doing his big old stomps. You know what, maybe I'll give him a lesson after this fight. Oh really? For God's sake. Alright, I guess that's the best technique for him. Fair play, good for you. But you know what? It's fine. That was what, my 3rd or 4th attempt? And the first time I got him to his second phase, and I was just 1 hit away from killing him. I've got this. Easy money. Whoa, shit! Well, there's that grapple. Now, I'll get him next time, And by that I mean, he goes on to kill me 16 times in a row. I was dead inside. And for about half of those attempts, I didn't even get him to his second phase. I just felt like I was regressing at this point. I think my problem in this game is, when I get frustrated I just play so much worse. But even then I still kept trying. Was I too proud to give up? Or am I just a stubborn fool? Well, it didn't matter. All that mattered now was this fight. I managed to dodge quite a lot of his attacks, hitting him with my special move as often as I could. I just had to stay focused and keep dodging. You're never safe, you're always about to get hit. Keep dodging. I had to pick my shots, pick my moments. I had to be precise, like a surgeon. I felt like I was in the zone, like I was tapping into Ultra Instinct or something. I just couldn't be touched. Oh wait. Wait, no, get up. No! Why? This loss really hurt. I felt like I was doing so well, and to get him 1 hit from death again, it was heartbreaking. And so naturally, I immediately wanted to fight him again, because I am a stubborn idiot, but I just desperately wanted this win. Horaloo, warrior, may this be our final battle. I couldn't lose again. If I lose again now, that would be the 22nd time that he's beaten me, and I can't go through that again. Just don't get careless. As long as there's a single pixel of health in his health bar, he's still a threat. But I was just so anxious. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding away to the rhythm of his bounding footsteps. I was almost there. He's just 1 hit away now, but I couldn't get greedy. Don't force the finish, let it come to you. That's what I kept telling myself. He has to leave an opening at some point. And there it is. Let this be a lesson that nobody beats Chuck Knuckles 22 times in a row. Thank the Lord that that is over. That is easily the best feeling in games like these. Just the relief that you're done with this boss, you can finally move on with your life. And it feels great, but in the back of your mind, you know there's another boss coming up, and then the cycle starts all over again. Here are my stats. We're almost at the end. Now there's nothing left to do but beat this last boss. Or is there? You see, there is a boss in this game that is famously incredibly hard. And most of you know who I'm talking about. It's Melania. And if I'm doing a challenge run, I've got to try and fight Melania, right? But first things first, wake up babe, new crab drop. That's right, I forgot that Blackguard also sells these crabs, which are just a straight upgrade to the prawns. It would have been very helpful in that last boss fight, but they're going to be crucial against Melania. In total, I ended up buying 51 of the things. Now I'm just going to cut straight to the fighting. You don't need to see how I got here, this video is too long already for that shit. I have 51 boiled crab, and so I said to myself, if I don't beat her in 51 attempts, I'll give up entirely. I mean, no matter how hard she is, surely in 51 attempts I'll beat her once, right? Plus I have actually beaten her before. However, it was on my first playthrough where I wasn't doing a challenge run, but I still didn't use summons and it took me over 100 tries. And I'll be honest, my first couple attempts were terrible, because I know that despite how insanely strong she is weak to being staggered. And I thought that my jumping attack plus the Crag Blade buff would actually make her stagger all the time, but that just wasn't the case. And so I had to do something I thought I'd never have to do again. I had to go back to the spiked Castus. Because hear me out, she heals herself every time she hits you, and so the bleed build up is actually a really good counter against that. And I slapped on quick step because, well, you'll see why. But I'm not going to waste your time here. I'm just going to come out and say it. I didn't beat her in the 51 attempts. I'm not going to beat around the bush and drag it out. I'm basically just going to show you the highlights and talk about the boss for a bit. Okay, her first phase. Even though in these 51 attempts I got her to her second phase 3 times, her first phase is actually kinda easy. And I know that doesn't make sense given what I just said, so a more accurate thing to say would be, her first phase is easy apart from one move. Because as you've just seen, most of her moves are incredibly telegraphed and relatively easy to counter. All you have to do is sit back, wait for her to miss, and then hit her. It's incredibly simple for a boss that's this hard. If this fight was just this, it would actually be pretty easy, even with her regening health with every hit. And then she does this. She turns into a fucking tornado of sword slashes. This bitch would make Captain Levi jealous. Now I know it doesn't look too bad, because by some fucking miracle I didn't die to that. But I'll tell you this much, like 90% of the reasons I died is because of that move. And if you do manage to get her to her second phase, this is how she starts it out. That's right, she turns into a fucking nuke. And I swear the way you could dodge it before is running underneath and then running to the left, but I think they changed that. And it feels so bad to die so quickly into the second phase, because then you have to do phase 1 again. And this is basically the story of phase 1. I'll do pretty damn well, get enough hits in to stagger her, get her to about 60% health, and then she does a special move, I shit myself, panic, fail to dodge, rinse and repeat 50 times. And I'm sure if you get the timing down, this move could be relatively easy to dodge. But every single time she jumps up and you know it's coming, I just lose all composure and just panic. It's like a PTSD thing at this point. Like, it's so bad at this point that if I see a lanky redhead go in real life, jump up high, I'd probably just break down into tears and get into the fetal position. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much more time on a boss that I didn't beat. So before we move on, here's 2 more highlights. The first being, she's about to jump up, do her special move, but then I jump up as well and meet her with my special move, knocking her to the floor. It just felt like such a Dragon Ball Z moment, it was so satisfying. She still murdered me afterwards, but you know, we take those. And the last highlight is the best I did against her in these 50 attempts. This time I managed not to die immediately like I did in the other 2 times I got her to her second phase. And then I was immediately panicking because I didn't expect to get this far. And yeah, after she lands, it's not safe to attack her. The whole radius around her is completely irradiated with Scarlet Rot. So if I walked up, I'll end up looking like the guy whose face melted at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. But anyway, she immediately pulls for her strongest move, and in her second form, it's even stronger. This bitch is ruthless. And so in those 50 attempts, that's the best I did. Did they make her too hard, or do I just suck? Or is the build I'm using just that bad? In my opinion, it's all 3. But anyway, if you do want to watch me kill her, you can watch me do it in my first playthrough, here's the video. But that's it, that's Melania. I know I said nobody beats Chuck Knuckles 22 times in a row. Well, it turns out she can beat me 50 times. But thankfully you don't actually have to beat Melania to beat the game. So with that said, let's go beat the game. Now I do know that these bosses I'm about to fight do a shitload of holy damage, and so that's why I equipped the Hallig Drake Talisman. Also, I went and bought a bunch more crab. And so here we go, let's fucking end this, shall we? And so here we go. Chuck Knuckles steps into the light with one thing on his mind: victory. Also the fact that he should have bought his sunglasses, because fuck me, it's bright in here. But when the light finally fades and Chuck can start making things out, what he saw surprised him. A woman has been like crucified and like stabbed through the gut. I just wanted to come here for a title fight, guys. Like, I get the Bible reference and everything, but went for an awful lot to get here and have a title fight. So if you could, you know, just bring out the champion maybe, that would be nice. But as it turns out, this was the champion. Apparently in his free time he likes to dress up like a woman and pretend to be crucified. Listen mate, I'm not here to judge, I'm just here to fight. And I'm sorry, I should have knocked first, I'm sorry. Alright, let's just get this fight over with and let's never talk about this again. Jeez, that was awkward. But anyway, as soon as the fight starts, I employ my usual tactic of using Cragblade and then running in like a maniac ready to jump smash. Basically the same thing I do in every other boss fight. So less about me and more about Radagon. I feel like From Software tried really hard to make this guy like Gwyn and the Soul of Cinder and Gurman in terms of how iconic they are, how climactic they are as a boss fight, and how much of an impact and impression they leave on you afterwards. Now don't get me wrong, Radagon hits hard, but not emotionally, I mean literally when he hits you he does a lot of damage. Yeah, sadly when I got to this point on my first playthrough I just really didn't care. In all the other bosses I just mentioned, when you fight them you get like chills, like oh my god I can't believe I'm actually fighting this person. But by the time you get to Radagon you're so numb from the brutal beatdowns of every other bosses that you're just happy for it to be over soon. But unfortunately for me it's not going to be that easy. Radagon might not be as cool or interesting as all the other bosses, but he's just as hard if not harder. Damn, dude heard me talking shit. But hey, maybe I'm being too harsh on Radagon and the late game in general. But it was a bit disappointing to me, I'm gonna be honest, because if they stuck the landing better, this could have actually overtaken Bloodborne as my favourite game of all time. But they didn't, so it isn't. I do appreciate though them using the main menu music to try and build up the hype and excitement for this fight, but to me it didn't really work either. But if you disagree and you love this boss in the late game, that's still absolutely fine, but it's just not for me. I'm sure it's painfully obvious at this point, but my tactic here is wait for him to miss, jump smash, rinse and repeat. It may not be the best way or the smartest way, but shit, if it ain't broke don't fix it. But what about his attacks? His attacks are a mixture of physical damage with his hammer and then a shitload of holy damage with his spells. And this move is definitely his most annoying one. If you get hit with one of the shock blasts, your guy's down for about 25 minutes, which basically guarantees that you're going to get hit by the next one. And if you're still not dead yet, then you'll get hit with the next one. Actually, something that's probably more annoying is when he just spams the same couple spells over and over again. He doesn't do it all the time, but the fact that he does it at all is infuriating. Chuck Knuckles has lost all respect for you, mate. Like, I get it, you're really low, you're almost dead, but let's not act like a bitch. You have zero integrity, I don't know how you made it to be a champion. On my next attempt though, I managed to dodge all of his bullshit and finally put an end to the story for good. It's over. I'm the champion now. Okay, yeah, we all knew it wasn't the end. There's obviously a second phase. So as it turns out, this is the real champion. A big galactic slug looking thing. I guess Radagon's like his bodyguard or something, but it's fine. I'm sure fighting this thing is going to be really easy, totally not infuriating. And he has a sword as well, so you know he's not going to use any spells. This is going to be an honourable fight between two honourable warriors. Yeah, no, this is the worst boss of them all. At the start of the fight though, he just sort of stands there and breathes fire, so if you just walk around to the side and hit him a bunch, you're fine. But to be fair, I will say this is easily the best looking boss. I mean, it is a sight to behold, it's gorgeous. But that's when he gets annoying. That's when he starts moving around incredibly far, and you have to reenact the fire giant fight, chasing after him the whole time. But like the fire giant, he also has a weak point. It's the glowy looking star cluster thing on his chest, and I actually managed to stagger him here, which is pretty surprising. I mean, so far this doesn't look too bad, right? I can hear some of you thinking out there, you've already got him to half health and the fight's barely started, what's the problem here? How is this big glowy punching bag the worst boss? Well, the answer is simple. He hasn't done any of his bullshit moves yet. Like this one for example, where he floats up to the sky and then he makes a big magic ring descend from the heavens. And if you don't get out of it quick enough, it'll explode and almost kill you. That's a lot of fun, huh? And then there's this classic. He shoots a million little stars up in the air, and then they come raining down, tracking your every movement. Ho ho, watch out there, you better move quick or they'll kill you, especially if you're not wearing any goddamn armor. And that's basically what this fight really is. He uses one of his really big bullshit spells from a safe distance, because let's not forget he moves around really far. And by the time you've barely survived and managed to heal, there's another spell coming your way. And if you do finally manage to get close to him, he just moves away again. I mean, luckily for me here, he sort of just stayed where he was and started swinging his sword at me, which I would take that all day long. But then, unfortunately for me, he did one of his most annoying spells. It's one of his fair and balanced tracking spells, except it's not just a bunch of little stars this time, there's also a big old solar flare in there as well. and this thing tracks you down continuously. If you do manage to dodge it, it will just keep going around and try and hit you again. This move quickly became the move where I just lose all of my composure and start panicking. It reminds me of the magic version of the big saw that chases you in the Wild Wild West. That shit used to scare the crap out of me as a kid. But anyway, the worst thing of all, worse than all the bullshit spells and all that, is the fact that when you die to the Elden Beast, you have to fight Radagon all over again. And I know that's obviously what was going to happen, that's always the case in these games, but it's still just so disheartening knowing you have to fight a really hard boss to get to an even harder, more annoying boss. Also, the fact that you have to skip the cutscene every time to start the fight just really irks me. I know it shouldn't because it's such a minor thing, but having to do it every time you retry it just builds up into being really annoying after a while. But anyway, the story of the next like 15 attempts was just me beating Radagon most of the time and then dying to the Elden Beast. Clearly I had to change things up. Since stamina in the Elden Beast fight is paramount, I went to go pick up the green turtle talisman, which boosts your stamina regen, and then I did a bunch of grinding to get up to level 142. Basically, the more stamina I have, the more chance I have of dodging every spell that the Elden Beast throws at me. Was to fight Radagon with my gloves that have the crag blade on them so we can get staggered more often, and then for the Elden Beast I'll switch to my other gloves which have quick step so I can dodge spells even easier. So here we go. Dodging all of Radagon's bullshit is still really annoying, but after so many attempts you sort of just find the rhythm, and it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it a little bit less absolutely atrocious. Here was me killing Radagon for the final time. I then switched to my quick step gloves in preparation for the cosmic flubber. And do you want to see just how good quick step is against this boss? It is literally a lifesaver. But for this next attack it's better to just roll through it regularly, which can be quite hard because they move pretty fast, but if you only get hit by one, you did alright. He killed me with that move a lot, by the way. And then it was time to put a hurting on him. Anytime Reese stands still for more than like 4 seconds felt like an absolute godsend. I hit him in his no-no spot and he tried to hit me with a big glowy punch, but luckily he telegraphed the hell out of it so I dodged it easily. And then it was back to using his belly like a big shiny heavy bag. I managed to stagger him just as he was casting one of his spells, and then hit him with the visceral attack, which doesn't do a huge amount of damage, but I did inadvertently dodge that spell damage, so that was nice. And as I get a few more hits in, that's when he casts a spell that always makes me panic. The good old heat-seeking solar flare. It still made me panic, but I did dodge it way better than last time. But that's when I noticed him in the background charging up his Rings of Heaven spell, or whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah, I never look up ability names, I just like to make them up myself. But this time, since he's low health, he cast it at a higher spell slot, meaning it went from 1 ring to 3. Fair to say I was panicking like crazy at this point, but I managed to survive it. But I couldn't celebrate yet though because my man was yeeting spells at me like there was no tomorrow. But I dodged them all this time because I am a man on a mission. And then he pulls out this crazy move that I've never actually seen him do before. I didn't know what the hell to do since I've never seen it before, but I managed to dodge it because I am that good, or I'm just lucky. You know, it's one of those two. But it's time to focus up. Like ribeyes on a plane, the stakes could not be higher. I won't lose it this time. This is for my manager. After 172 deaths in total, this is finally over. He did it! Chuck Knuckles is now the heavyweight champion of the world. For one final time before we get crowned, let's have a look at the stats. I'm just leveling up for the sake of it, I'm not going to fight again after this. Oh, what a journey. Okay, let's finally finish this. Before receiving this title, Chuck had to solve this really weird 3D puzzle looking thing. I guess it's like a quick last minute IQ test or something, just to prove you're not a complete moron before you get crowned as the champion of the world. But there was only 2 pieces to the entire thing, so it was incredibly easy. And then the puzzle started glowing because it had some like LEDs in it or something. Pretty cool, I'll admit. I can't wait to see what my prize is for being a champion.
An age of fracture.
What? All I get is this throne. It doesn't even look comfortable. The only fracturing going on is going to be Chuck's ass. I mean, there's not even any padding on the fucking chair. I was hoping for like a crown or a title belt. Even like a nice sash will do. Ugh, oh well. At least no one sacrificed their lives to get me to this point. Oh shit. So in summary, beating Elden Ring is a lot like climbing a really treacherous mountain. The views on the way up are gorgeous, but while you're ascending you're too worried about dying to actually appreciate it. You don't really get to take it all in. That is, until you reach the end, the summit. And then you get to look back feeling exhausted but proud. Actually, if mountain climbing really was like Elden Ring, you'd reach the summit and then a second health bar would show up and then you'd have to climb another fucking mountain. Thank you for watching. I know this is a long one, so thanks for sticking in there. Ideally I would have liked it to have been shorter, but Elden Ring's such a big game I can't really help it. It's also partly why this took forever for me to make. That and I have a job now, so I have like no free time. But anyway, like and subscribe and all that shit if you want. My next vid's gonna be a bit different, it's gonna be a review of God of War Ragnarok. Catch you later.